Hello and welcome to World News on the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Here are the headlines. US says M23 rebels have not completely withdrawn from Uvira despite claims. Senegal lawyers seek Supreme Court review of Prime Minister Sonko's defamation trial. Death toll in South Africa pub mass shooting rises to 10, police identify suspects. Democratic Republic of Congo resumes cobalt exports after a 10-month ban. Libya's military chief killed in plane crash after takeoff from Ankara. UN Security Council extends Africa Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia through 2026. Sahel Alliance leaders meet in Bamako to deepen break with ECOWAS. And now the news info. The United States government has expressed dissatisfaction with the withdrawal of the M23 rebel group from the strategic Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC) town of Uvira, saying the pullback falls short of a full and verifiable retreat necessary to bolster peace efforts. U.S. officials said that although some M23 fighters have moved out of central Uvira, combatants still appear to be operating in and around the town, undermining claims that the city has been fully liberated from rebel control. According to the U.S. assessment, a number of M23 fighters remain in the vicinity, with some allegedly disguising themselves in police uniforms rather than clearly withdrawing military forces. Reports also suggest sporadic gunfire continues in parts of the town, indicating security conditions are far from stable. The status of Uvira has become a flashpoint in broader peace initiatives following recent diplomatic efforts, including a US-mediated peace agreement between President Felix Tshisekedi of DRC and Rwanda, which committed to ending hostilities and reducing external support for armed groups. However, the M23, which is not a formal party to that deal, has been negotiating separately, and its actual disengagement from contested areas remain in question. The continued presence of armed elements near Uvira underscores ongoing security challenges in South Kivu province, where violence has triggered large-scale displacement and humanitarian strain. In Senegal, legal representatives for Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko have filed a formal request for the Supreme Court to review his 2023 defamation conviction, a case that has had significant political ramifications for his career and eligibility for public office. The petition submitted under Senegalese law asked the Apex Court to examine new evidence that Sonko's team says could undermine the basis of the original verdict. Sonko was initially convicted of defamation and public insult in a case brought by former tourism minister Mame Mbaye Niang and was ordered to pay damages. The conviction was upheld on appeal and came with a suspended sentence, which has been cited as a factor restricting his eligibility to contest elections in the past. Lawyers argue that the new information suggests irregularities in the conduct of the case, including allegations of irregular public spending, that the claims show Sonko's statements were not defamatory but grounded in legitimate concerns. If the Supreme Court agrees to hear the review, it could potentially set aside the original conviction, with wide implications for Sonko's legal and political standing. The death toll from a mass shooting at a tavern in Bekasdal, Gauteng province, South Africa has climbed to 10. Authorities confirmed on 23 December 2025 as investigations continue and a manhunt intensifies. The attack, which took place in the early hours of 21st December, occurred at the Kwanozolo Tavern in the township, roughly 46 kilometers west of Johannesburg. Police say a group of about a dozen armed gunmen arrived in 2 vehicles and opened fire randomly on patrons inside and outside the establishment, leaving 3 women and 7 men dead. An additional 9 people remain hospitalized with serious injuries, and 1 later succumbed to wounds in the hospital, bringing the total fatalities to 10. Gauteng Police Deputy Commissioner Major General Fred Kekana told reporters that 2 potential suspects have been identified based on community tips, though no arrests have been made publicly yet. Authorities also announced plans to charge the tavern's owner with fraud and operating an illegal liquor outlet, and all alcohol on the site has been seized as part of the inquiry. The Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC) has resumed its cobalt export after a 10-month suspension, a move announced by the country's finance minister Dodo Fwamba on 23 December 2025. The resumption follows a ban introduced in February to stabilize global prices that had collapsed amid oversupply and falling demand earlier in the year. Cobalt is a strategic mineral essential to lithium-ion batteries used in electric vehicles, smartphones, and other technologies. The DRC, which accounted for approximately 76% of the global cobalt production in 2024, had halted exports to regain control over price formation and protect its fiscal revenues. The prohibition aimed to prevent the nation from being a passive supplier in a metal market dominated by multinational producers. Officials say the strategy was successful in boosting prices, with markets responding to reduced supply, and the decision to resume exports reflects renewed confidence in balancing domestic interests with global demand. We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue. Libya has declared 3 days of national mourning after the country's top military commander, Lieutenant General Mohammed Ali Ahmed al-Haddad, and several senior officers were killed in a plane crash shortly after their private jet took off from Ankara, Turkey, on December 23, 2025. The Dassault Falcon 50 business jet carrying al-Haddad, 4 senior Libyan military officials, and 3 crew members crashed near Kesikavak village in the Heymana district south of Ankara. Turkish authorities said the aircraft lost contact with air traffic control about 40 minutes after departure, having issued an emergency landing signal before all communication ceased. Among those killed were General Al-Faturi Grabil, head of Libya's ground forces, Brigadier General Mahmoud Al-Katawi, director of the Military Manufacturing Authority, Mohammed Al-Asawi Diab, a senior advisor, and Mohammed Omar Ahmed Mojub, a military photographer. All 8 people on board died in the accident. Libya's government of national unity described the deaths as a great loss for the nation and the military institution, and extended condolences to the families and colleagues of the victims. During the 3-day mourning period, flags will fly at half-mast and official ceremonies and celebrations will be suspended nationwide. The delegation had been returning from high-level defense talks in Ankara with Turkish officials ahead of the crash. Turkish prosecutors and forensic teams are assisting in the investigation of the flight's final moments, which Turkish media reports indicate may have involved an electrical fault as the jet attempted to return to the airport. The United Nations Security Council has unanimously voted to extend the mandate of the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia for an additional year, keeping the mission in place until 31 December 2026. Under Resolution 2809/2025, the Council authorized African Union member states to continue deploying up to 11,826 uniformed personnel, including police, to support Somali security forces in their ongoing efforts to counter the Al-Shabaab extremist groups and stabilize key regions of the country. The extension underscores the international community's continued commitment to bolstering security and governance in Somalia. Council members also decided that operations of the UN Transitional Assistance Mission in Somalia will cease as of 31 October 2026 as part of a phased transition to AUSSOM framework. British UN envoy Archie Young described the mission's role as essential for strengthening stability and security, especially given ongoing funding and logistical challenges. The leaders of the Alliance of Sahel States (AES), comprising Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso have held high-level talks in Bamako aimed at strengthening cooperation and further reducing reliance on the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, following their formal withdrawal from the regional bloc. The second annual AES summit brought together Malian President Assimi Goïta, Niger's President Abdurrahman Chiani, and Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré to review progress since the alliance's formation in 2023 and chart a path toward deeper regional autonomy in defense, security, development, and communication. At the two-day gathering, the three leaders formally launched a joint military force to fight terrorism across member states, a move seen as central to AES's ambition to take greater control of its own security agenda independent of ECOWAS frameworks. They also inaugurated AES Television, a new regional broadcaster designed to counter disinformation and promote the bloc's narrative across the Sahel. The alliance's efforts comes after years of fallout between the three countries and ECOWAS, precipitated by a military coup in Mali 2020, Burkina Faso 2022, and Niger 2023 that led to sanctions and a fraught relationship with the West African bloc. And that's all we have on World News on the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayu. Thanks for joining us.